got it.
Last training for the year?
Yeah.
Alright, awesome. Well, I'm very excited about the new year. Hopefully you guys had a good holiday. And we're going to have a talk today that is very appropriate for going into the new year. What makes, the weirdest thing about Primerica and sometimes the most challenging thing about Primerica is also the best thing about Primerica, right? The weirdest thing is also the best thing, and that's the recruiting aspect of our business. People used to say, Primerica has recruiting and Primerica has sales, and it's almost like recruiting is the stepchild of Primerica, the one that not everybody wants to talk about, not everybody wants to really glorify. When we talk to people and they ask us what we do, we'll usually lean towards the sales of financial products because that's more normal. But if you want to be a good recruiter, your belief level has to be higher than that. You can't hide that part of the business. The people who get good at sales, yeah, they can have a good life in Primerica, right? But you'll kind of always be in sales, you'll always be working. You can still have some passive income off of investments, but it's never going to be like when you have independent producers, independent RVPs, a team of hundreds of people that are producing with or without you. And your business will never really have any real value unless you build a team, right? So if you're selling shoes out of the trunk of your car, sneakers, you can make a lot of money, but no one's going to buy that business. But if you have 10 storefronts of athletic wear, that business really has value. And it's the same thing in Primerica. If you want to create an income generating asset, you just want to make sure that the asset is not you, the person. Does that make sense? You the person, want to create an asset that can generate income, but you don't want to be solely the person that's generating all the income in your business. That's how your business that the value is determined. Does that make sense? So in the business world, this is a real thing. People go in, they value business, and they're going to look at how much of that income is coming from you, how much is coming from without you, and there's a calculation that they use. Same thing happens in Primerica as well. Okay? So let's get into this. I think these are going to be some good notes. I see a lot of new people in here. These are things that you can write down and look year after year to kind of remind yourself of how things work. So all right. So what do we do here? We hire a lot. Ideally, we keep a lot, and then we want to train them well. So we don't hire a little, keep a little, and train them poorly. You also don't want to hire a lot, not keep a lot, and then train them poorly. So there's a lot of different formulas that people are running kind of unconsciously. This is the formula you want to run. You want to hire a lot, you want to keep a lot, and you want to train people well. I think that if people come to training, that's an aspect of training. If they go out into the field, that's obviously a very important part of the training as well. You got to see what we're doing. You have to be, field training, classroom training. This is classroom training, and then you got to go in the field as well. So you can hire a few and train them well, but again, that's not the formula that we're trying to run here. We want to hire a lot of people. As an individual, what's hire a lot? It starts at 10. You're responsible for bringing in 10 people. When you build a team, you want to get to 20 recruits and 30 recruits and 50 recruits, and obviously we all have a goal to get to 100 recruits. Number one point, carefully choose people to enlarge. That is what we do. So I meet someone like a Xander, who Josh really met him, right? And when I get exposure to him, I want to enlarge him as a person. I want to enlarge his goals. I want to enlarge his belief. I want to enlarge his skill set. I want to enlarge his effectiveness, his productivity, right? His discipline. And all of that is going to happen by him being, I'll just use myself as an example, by him being exposed to me, by him watching me, right? By him copying me, by me instilling certain things. This is too involved a process to do with everyone, so you have to be selective. So you're going to hire a lot of people, but you have to be selective on who you're going to choose to enlarge. Because it is going to be time consuming. So someone can come in very motivated, but they just don't have the right thinking. We want to fix and adjust that thinking for them to be big thinkers, and then they can produce in a big way as well, right? We want to work with those that will be most receptive to growth. Because if you want to grow, there's no growth without what? Pain. No pain, no gain. You are not going to, if you haven't worked out in 3 months, you have to anticipate those first couple times you're not going to be able to walk, right? That's what people say. You train them once, they're like, Andre, man, I could barely turn the steering wheel because my arms were so sore. But that means that you're growing. You got to get sore. You got to change. You got to turn the TV off. You got to turn the radio off. You got to turn the podcast off. You got to turn Netflix off. Some of that is painful. So you want to work with people that are receptive to growth. People that just talk about, everybody wants success. Everybody wants all these different things. What are you willing to actually do about it? Those are the people that are receptive to growth. If someone meets me and I'm like, yeah, I make, $35,000, $40,000 a month, and they're making $5,000 a month, you would assume that the things I'm telling them, they would take that and they would say, hey, I need to implement these things because someone who has what I want and is where I want to be is telling me to do it. But if they're not receptive to growth. Does that make sense? What has Hector always taught us, right? He's one of the legends in the company. He said, words whisper, behavior screams. A lot of people know how to say the right things, but you got to watch what they do. People want to take over the world, but they can never wake up in time to come to Saturday training.
Yeah.
In the world of success, in the world of business, like waking up at 6 a.m. is not early, and our meeting on Saturday is 9:30. I mean, no matter where you're coming from, what time do you have to wake up to come to a 9:30 meeting? Like, what world are you living in? If you thought that was a big deal. Select those whose philosophy is similar to yours. Because sometimes we get excited about hiring people that already have a license or already have worked in the financial industry or already have worked in sales. Do you know what the philosophy is with these types of people? They just want to sell anything and make money. They don't care what the impact is to the client. We do the right thing here. Our philosophy, we believe in recruiting. We believe in selling, a lower commission insurance product because it's the right thing for the client. We don't believe in hard closing. We believe in finding value. We believe in needs-based selling. So when people are starting to throw out all this other crap that salespeople say about selling what I can sell ice to an Eskimo, why would you want to do that? So select those whose philosophy is similar to yours. Choose people with potential that you genuinely believe in. Everybody really has potential, right? But someone, they gotta have potential and you really believe in it. That's who you want to choose to enlarge. What happens is in an interview or in Primerica, people try to put it all on us and they're like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna try. And they make it look like that's a big deal that they're gonna try Primerica. What's a bigger deal? That you're making $5,000 a month and you're trying to work with me, or me doing what I'm doing as busy as I am, the things that I have going on, that I'm taking a risk on you? Right? What if you're putting up a front, I'm putting all this time and effort, my time is worth way more than yours. I'm taking a way bigger risk. Does that make sense? Select people whose lives you can genuinely impact. I like it that I hire someone and they accomplish something and I take them out to a nice dinner and they're amused by that. Or we go on a company trip and they're amused by that. Or I introduce them to someone, they make X amount of dollars, and they're amused by that. If you've seen it all, done it all, you're already going everywhere, you have a great life, good for you, dude. Like, that's fine. But that's, I don't know if I'm going to really be able to impact your life. I want to work with people where, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month extra is going to impact their life. If you're so happy with your job and you have tons of money saved and you're just, I don't know if the impact is going to be there. So these are things that we think about. Look, this is a quote. Nurture great thoughts, for you will never go higher than your thoughts. So as you go into the next year, you got to think about it, man. Do you feel you deserve to make whatever that number is for you? 30,000 part-time in Primerica, 50,000. If you're full-time, 100,000, 200,000. You have to nurture great thoughts. If you don't think that you're worth it, it's not going to happen. Help people have great thoughts about themselves, and they will begin to live like the people they can become. One of the qualities of a great coach is they're able to get more out of the player than the player believes they can get out just by themselves. So you get more out of people than they thought they could get out of themselves, but you get more out of them. That's why we correct people. Like, one of the annoying things about spending time with me is I'm going to correct your language. I'm going to ask you, why did you say that? Why do you think that? Why do you only believe that? Where did you get that from? I have to correct your thinking, right? No one's going to be negative around me. Number one, because I don't want it to affect my thinking, but if you really think that way, how are you ever going to succeed? We talked about in the goal setting meeting a week ago that people have limiting beliefs about the world. Oh, the world is like this. Or about people. People are like this. Or mainly about themselves. I'm like this. I'm always like this. This always happens to me. So part of working with people and enlarging people is correcting that thinking and those thoughts so they can actually become someone bigger than who they are. You are exactly where you are based on who you are and the choices that you're making. If you don't change who you're around, how you think, what you're doing, you are going to end up in the exact same place. That is not what we want. And that can happen at every level. If I make 250 and the next year I make 250 as well, I must have some limiting beliefs. It's not only for people who are making 50 grand. We all have to constantly work on this. So let's talk about what real recruiters do. Real recruiters are duplicating. You have to inspect what you are doing. You want to sound just like your coach. If I go into the Reston office and I hear 7 people making calls and they all have a different response to how do you make money, what do you do, just basic questions, right? That means that we're not duplicating properly. It's a really old school example, but what would happen with a Xerox is it would be faded from the original copy, right? Yeah. So you would copy something on the copy machine, it'd be very faded, then you would do it again and again and again, and 5 copies later, it's unrecognizable. That's what happens in the business. You cannot allow people to ad-lib. They are not skilled enough to do that. They gotta sound like you, they gotta present like you, they gotta answer questions like you, and if that means that you gotta type stuff out and they have it in front of them, that's what you wanna be doing. You do not wanna have a business where you are not duplicating yourself. Number one, you wanna be worth duplicating. So make sure the trainer that you're duplicating is someone that has a lot of experience here and is getting results. Real recruiters know that most quit in their first 90 days. So if you are less than 90 days here, you could be susceptible to this. And if you've been here for longer than 90 days and you hire your so-called best friend, right, understand that. People quit in 90 days. Why? Because people quit everything in 90 days. What's the statistic, right? Now's the time of year people start doing New Year's resolutions like the gym and everything else, but statistically, when do people forget about all of it?
Second
Do I
day.
second?
Second week.
10 days.
They say like
2 hours.
20, January, I don't know, remember that, but it's somewhere in January. They never look at it again, and it's because there's such a strong pull for us to just go back to who we normally are. Right? You gotta be really motivated, or something has to happen in your life for you to be like, I'm just tired of the direction I'm going in and the things that I'm doing, and I want to make a dramatic change. So come on. I mean, people are gonna come in, right? And they're gonna quit. Oh man, Primerica's hard. People are quitting on me. I read an article yesterday that churches are shutting their doors because less people are going to church. I don't know why. I don't have a theory. It was just a headline. Right? So they used to say in Primerica, like, people are quitting on God. They're not going to quit on you. Really think about that. We are not so special, and the company's not so special that we're going to turn quitters into winners right away. So first 90 days, I'm like, man, these meetings are cool, and I'm gonna make money, it's gonna be so easy, and I like these people, right? And then you start to realize that your old life starts creeping up, and you kind of miss that old life, and your self-belief comes in, your low self-esteem. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. Am I just wasting my time? And people have this negative self-talk, and they just go back. And we see it happen all the time in the gym, with diets. I'm gonna stop smoking, and you see me smoking again. Whatever you do, right? Whatever you do. Slow down on the drinking, they're drinking again. Look, one of the theories that we have here that's very popular from a leadership book is called the law of the lid. Okay? So that means that there are leadership levels, right? What's your lid? If your leadership level, your ability to get people to follow you, your ability to get results, if your level is a 5 out of 10, which is the highest, then theoretically the people you hire are going to be below 5. If your leadership level is a 3, most likely you're going to hire what? 1s, and guess what? 1s don't make it. So is it their fault, or are we too small of a person? Are we too small of a leader? That's why we can't get effective people. Now the crazy thing about Primerica is you can be day 1, you could recruit a 10, but the 10 is not going to be following you, the 1. They'll be following Shaq, and the other leaders. But that's the beauty of Primerica. Anyone can recruit anybody. So that you see that dynamic sometimes when people come in and they're like, I know I'm under XYZ, but can I work with you? And it's legitimate. They should be working with me. So you want to grow your lid, right? If this year you can go from a 5 to a 6, a 6 to a 7, that's huge because it shows that now you are going to be able to recruit better people and they're actually going to be following you. And that helps move you up, right? Why doesn't a bigger leader want to follow a smaller leader? Because then they come up against a lid, right? You're going to hold people down. So what's the difference between a small leader, big leader? I hire you and I'm like, yeah, man, it'll probably take you a month, but you can pass this test. Why'd you just say that? You're holding people down. That's small leadership. You have low expectations, right? Or, yeah, we can wait until you go on any appointments until you get your license. This is small leadership. You're thinking very short term. So whatever the person is on your team, the best person on your team, add 1, that's you. You got anyone on your team showing up that has 5 people in attendance? You got anyone on your team showing up that is independent at all, that can close by themselves, that show up to everything? You don't have to always remind them. What's their leadership level? Add 1, that's you. Real recruiters understand that recruits must turn into attendance, period. People say, hey, Shaq always said the number 1 recruiters will be the number 1 income earners, but I don't really see that happening. Yeah, because real recruiting is the title of this training, right? When I get someone to pay $125, And many months in the year, they're given some type of discount, $70, right now it's $50, whatever it is. The IBA has to turn into meeting attendance, has to turn into licensing, has to turn into production, right? Has to turn into an actual producer. So what is a big recruiter? Someone who's getting this, or someone who's getting this, or someone who has the most of these? What your definition of what real recruiting is going to determine what types of people, like how well your people do in your organization. The purpose of recruiting is to build an attendance. Everything good comes from your attendance. These are the people with the highest belief. They're going to be the most productive. I'll say it again. We've never seen anyone in Primerica long-term succeed that doesn't come to meetings. Because if that was the case, why the hell am I here? I was in a very nice place. I came home for this meeting. If there was a way for everyone to succeed without me doing these, then I would have stayed where I was. But the meetings are required, including for me. Real recruiters know there are 2 times to hard close: showing up to everything and getting in the field right away. People say, man, I'm so good at getting recruits. I can get anyone to pay $125. Everybody wants to join my team. That's great. I'm glad you have that skill. But the real skill in closing is, can you get people to show up? You recruited 10 people last month. Your meeting's not growing. Why? Well, this person has this, and this person has this, and this person has that. Okay, so everyone is closing you. They're convincing you. You are being sold. Instead of you selling on why someone needs to change their life around so they can come to the meetings, they sold you on why it's never possible that they can come to meetings. That's why when I work with someone, before they tell me all the BS excuses, I want to get to that point across to them that, look, the meetings are the most important thing. In the orientation video, it's the meetings. That's what helps me grow. That's what helps me get recognized by my coaches. They'll want to work with me. Meetings are my exit strategy from being a normal person, because they develop me, they chipped away at me. If you say, hey, we have these meetings, are you available? And they give you 10 reasons, they never got to hear why it was so important, and now you're not going to tell them after they already told you they're not coming. So I want to put it on them that, and I get it. Some people have legitimate temporary reasons why they can't come to the meeting. So people say, man, this person's really good, but they're saying that they can't come. I'm not saying you fire the person, but in the back of your mind, you got to know, until they can make that adjustment, very low probability. By the way, when people get in trouble with their driver's license, right, what are they required to go to?
Class.
You got to go to these courses, right? And when are these courses? It's always Saturday. So it's like, you couldn't come, but I've seen it many times. There's something else where it's mandated that they show up, but all of a sudden they're able to do it. People are always able to do it. Oh, I have kids. My kids have sports, whatever. Dude, people are building, nowadays, billion-dollar companies. They didn't have kids with sports. It's just very small, weak thinking. Oh, but if I tell them this, they're going to get mad. Right. Have you heard the saying? Without turning people off, you're not going to turn people on. So maybe there's another thing, like as I go through the year, you know what? I'm going to hold strong to a few different things. And yes, some people aren't going to like it, and I'll lose some people, but maybe I'll gain the right people because of this new philosophy. And if you know me in person, one-on-one, I'm never mean to people. I'll say things matter-of-factly. I'll say it with a smile. I'm not mean. It's not about that. But you have to hold strong to certain things. Real recruiters know a lot of people will do a little. That's the Primerica mindset. You are not going to have a team of only 3 people and they're all doing 10 grand a month personal and you're running a 30 with 3 people. It's very unsustainable to do it that way, and it's difficult, right? So what you want to be thinking about is having a team of 25 licensed agents, everyone's doing 1 or 2, and then of course you have 2 people that do 10. 2 people doing 10 comes from having 25. It doesn't come from having 2. You're not going to go 2 of 2. It doesn't happen in sports. It doesn't happen at companies. You have to run large numbers in order to find the right types of people. You're not going to plant 2 seeds and they grow into these huge trees, right? You got to plant a lot of seeds. Real recruiters understand the power of partnership. I never had a spouse in the business, but who did I have? I had Shaq. When Shaq started, he had Brett. So I want to find you a partner. It can be your mom, it can be your grandma, it can be your brother, it can be your best friend, hopefully it can be your spouse, but it doesn't have to be, you just have to have somebody you're doing the business with. Some things in life it's just the way things happen. It's a little bit of luck. Like, if someone recruited me cold market, I didn't have Shaq and Brett in the business. I didn't have these guys that were influential in my life. I didn't have these guys that were doing so well at the business, and they were also a big influence on me, and I grew up with it. If I didn't have all that, I don't know what would have happened. I like to think I still would be where I am today, but there was just something about all of us doing it together. And you gotta fight to get your people a partner, and if you're in here, you gotta find a partner. And sometimes it's like, maybe Xander and Josh are partners in the business right now. They live in the same place, they work out of the same office. They only met a couple years ago, but that's a partnership, in a sense. They can say, hey, I'm gonna get this. They can lean on each other. Real recruiters understand there's no such thing as a quick sale or a quick recruit. Have to invest time. Time is the key. So, I called your resume, never met you, you came to a meeting, Shaq did a phenomenal presentation, which very few people are going to say no to, and you joined. Are you a real recruit? No, that's a quick recruit. I got to have a Zoom with you on Sunday and talk about the orientation. I got to meet with you on Monday, and we go on an appointment. They're going to talk, then we're going to talk more about what your goals are. We got to spend that time. That is what retains people and clients. You ever heard the words buyer's remorse? So people come in, they're disturbed about insurance, right? And you do a quick presentation, 20, 25 minutes, they sign up. What are they thinking the next day? What just happened here? Someone called me, I got on a Zoom, I gave my account number. What is this again? Should I do more research? Quick is not always better, right? And there's nothing wrong with a client saying they want more information, they want to meet again, they want to do some research, they want you to talk to their cousin. That's just, it's a little more work. I'm willing to work for my money. I have no problem with that. It's awesome to say we meet with people twice and we make these huge sales, but if you want to meet 3, 4, it's still a ton of money per hour for us. So stop looking for quick recruits or wondering why, man, this person was so excited on Saturday, Sunday, they tell me they don't want to do it. It's buyer's remorse. You knew that person for 30 seconds. You weren't even the one that presented to them. Shaq was. Real recruiters understand 7 to 10 wide. What does wide mean? People that you have directly recruited. There's no one in between you guys. This is never going to change in Primerica. You have to work on your width. So width is defined as in different ways. The most basic way to describe it is I recruited someone, they got licensed, and I have like 7 people like that. But the problem is 5 of the 7 we've never met. So is that really width? What is width? License and showing up. I think the real thing with width is like license, showing up, and you made 1 sale last month. It's not too much to ask, right? If you got 7 people making 1 sale independently, that's not bad. But remember, when you have 7 people at least making 1, out of 7, someone will make 7, 8, 9, 10. So you want to work on your width. Real recruiters know the best time to recruit is all the time. It's hard to be a part-time recruiter, man. You don't prospect sometimes and not other times. You don't make calls sometimes and not other times, right? You don't take weeks off of recruiting. You have to be immersed, and you have to have that radar on all the time. Real recruiters have the most conviction because you're doing it all the time. You're talking about it all the time. You're in the practice of recruiting. You're used to the objections that people have. And the thing about recruiting is, especially if you're doing some one-on-one interviews and you're making calls, you're constantly marketing the Primerica opportunity. And you're telling them, this is the best opportunity, and where else can you go to make money like this? And look how great our company is, and look at the accolades, and this is our compensation system, and this is how you get to RVP. And you're telling that person, but you're telling so many people the story. You got to remember, when you're talking to yourself too. So I've told 50 different people this story, but the most important thing is I've told it to myself 50 times as I'm telling the 50 people. So people that never talk about the business, they never reinforce all of those things. They only hear it at the meetings a couple hours a week, and that's why they don't have the conviction. So when you do your goals, maybe you should have an activity goal for the whole year and say, hey, I'm going to make a list, let's say that you're part-time here, 1 through 50 or 1 through 100. I'm going to do 100 one-on-one interviews this year. Tell me how you feel after you've done the first 50. You will be a different person because you'll be used to marketing the opportunity and talking about it. Real recruiters know that you're only one away from an explosion. So the founder of the company invented this. He said this, 50 years ago or whatever it was. But why is it important to really believe that? Because if you really believe that you are one away, then you would be recruiting like crazy. When we have new people in here, I'm telling you, what this means is you can literally hire one person, it'll change your whole life. The guy that is coming in to speak to us,
yes,
right, at our event in a couple weeks, Mark Glass, I won't say this to him on stage, right, but it is understood that one person came in, and we were, me, Shaq, and Brett, but they got in the business before me. They walked into his office. At that time, he was making probably $10,000 a month. Now, without even having an office, he makes $50,000 to $60,000 a month and has for 2 decades because someone walked in his office. Is that not considered an explosion?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Now, he's fortunate. He didn't have to make that phone call. Someone walked into his office, but maybe you will have to make a phone call for that. Maybe you'll have to make 1,000. But the point is it only takes one. There's many people in Primerica. You look, there's these superstars, and then on the computer you can see their upline, you never heard of them. And that's okay. The person did their job. They just stayed in. They didn't quit. So whatever they're getting, they deserve it. That one person could have a huge network and take you to go see 30 clients. That one person could be super influential. They could get 10 people licensed. That one person gets addicted to trying to win the contest, and because they want to win the contest, you win the contest. Right? So many great things. Envision this. Always remember this, that when you recruit someone, you recruit their market. If I recruit you, now your grandmother can potentially become our client. I didn't know her, right? I didn't know her grandmother, but the grandmother becomes a client because of her. When we recruit people, we recruit their entire market. Their entire, right? And that's in everybody's best interest. It's in the grandmother's best interest, it's in her best interest, it's in my best interest, because we only do the right thing for people. But you have to be recruiting entire markets of people. That's the mindset that you gotta have. I'm not just recruiting the person, I'm recruiting everybody that they know. You might not even be the person. Maybe it's your grandmother. Maybe it's your best friend. Maybe it's someone you went to school with. This is all the positive reinforcement you have to give yourself as you're working. That's That's how you keep the excitement level up. And of course, a lot of people will disappoint. And then we have another saying, you have to discipline your disappointment. You can't get disappointed. Then you're in the gutter. Your mind is in the gutter. You're negative. That's how people quit. So you have to discipline your disappointment too. Like, man, that's a bad week, man. I thought I had a lot of good conversations. They're not showing up. They didn't come to the meeting. This is like the 10th time. And you say it with like a smile on your face and knowing that, you know, if this is a bad week, next week better be a good week. It will be. It has to be. That's the way the averages work. These are the mind games that you kind of play with yourself to stay an optimistic, positive person. Because again, it's about being a leader. If you're getting down, what the hell are you telling your people?
Right.
You're like, wait a second, dude, you recruited me. You seem kind of down. Right? See if you ever see that person again.
Yeah.
That's why being positive and learning how to think this way is so important. And real recruiters get people to change their habits. Weak leaders are scared to tell people what things they need to change. And the problem with that is good luck getting those people to become anything if you're just going to keep them the way that they are. And even when you try, people are not going to change, right? In general. But again, we're looking for the few. Many will disappoint. Many will disappoint. But we're just looking for the few. Now you see a social, like when they told me the 20% rule, that was new to me. Now you see it all over social media. People say the 20% rule, the Pareto principle. 20% of people are going to outperform. But what's backwards, right? If you flip that backwards, that means that 80% of people are going to be average or less. So if you're a 20%er, that means that, right, the next 4 people are going to be 80%ers, which means that they're amateurs. You're a pro. So you always have to think that way, that I'm outnumbered. There's going to be very few people like me and a lot of people that don't think like me. That's what makes success. It's amazing. It's like, hey man, I talked to like 12 people and no one's interested. Right. If everyone was interested, everyone was winning, it wouldn't be an opportunity.
Right.
So that's the frustrating thing, is like, you are different, you're a 20%er, and you're going out, you're doing a lot of work, you realize, man, there's a lot of people that are 80%ers. Right, that's the actual literal formula. But then if you get so disappointed that you go back and you join them, then now you've gone back to being an 80%.
They stopped.
So imagine that. You had a chance to do something great, they converted you back into being an amateur, right? See it happen all the time. So, I'm very excited about the year. If you haven't set your goals yet, set your goals. I don't know if we made that into a video, Robert, last Saturday, not this Saturday, but the Saturday before. Go watch it. I got a lot of good feedback from that. Sometimes hearing something one time, right? You gotta read that book maybe again. I get it. You read Think and Grow Rich, 11 years ago. Maybe it's worth one more time. People have been reading it since the 1930s. It's the same thing with these types of videos. But go into the year thinking to yourself that I'm going to find some good people. I promise you, if you can find some good people, everything else you want will come from that. All right? Anything else we need to talk about? We have our event Saturday.
Month end.
Okay. Month end is?
Thursday midnight.
Okay, so Thursday midnight to close out December, to close out the year. So we've got to have a productive week. We have our event on January 11th, and then we have our team gala on January 4th. All right, so a lot of things coming up. We got to stay focused, make sure that we get all this stuff done. Anything else? All right, team on 3. 1, 2, 3.